Episode 11, Learning from Mistakes A1 Level. Hello everyone, and welcome back to this English podcast for beginners. In today's episode, I am going to talk about learning from mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Children make mistakes. Students make mistakes. Teachers make mistakes. Workers make mistakes. Even successful people make mistakes. Making mistakes is a natural part of life. However, many people feel afraid of making mistakes. They worry about what other people will think. They feel embarrassed when something goes wrong. Sometimes they stop trying because they are afraid of failure. But mistakes are not always bad. In fact, mistakes can be some of our greatest teachers. Every mistake gives us an opportunity to learn something new. Every mistake shows us a way to improve. When I was younger, I thought mistakes were terrible. If I made a mistake at school, I felt disappointed. If I answered a question incorrectly, I felt embarrassed. I wanted everything to be perfect. However, as I grew older, I began to understand something important. Perfection is impossible. Nobody does everything correctly all the time. Even experts make mistakes. The difference is that successful people learn from their mistakes instead of giving up. One area where mistakes are very common is language learning. When I started learning English, I made many mistakes. I mispronounced words. I used incorrect grammar. I forgot vocabulary. Sometimes I could not understand what people were saying. At first, these mistakes made me feel frustrated. I thought my progress was too slow. I wondered if I would ever become fluent. However, I continued practicing. Little by little, I improved. Every mistake taught me something valuable. For example, I remember learning the difference between borrow and lend. I used these words incorrectly many times. People corrected me again and again. At first, I felt embarrassed, but after hearing the correction several times, I finally understood the difference. Today, I rarely confuse those words. Without those mistakes, I might never have learned the correct usage. This experience taught me that mistakes are part of the learning process. Imagine learning how to ride a bicycle. Most people do not ride perfectly the first time. They may lose balance. They may fall. They may feel nervous. However, they get back up and try again. Eventually, they learn how to ride confidently. Language learning works in a similar way. We improve through practice, repetition, and correction. Mistakes are signs that we are trying something new. If we never make mistakes, it may mean that we are staying inside our comfort zone. Growth often happens when we challenge ourselves. For example, speaking English can feel uncomfortable at first. Many learners worrying about pronunciation. They worrying about grammar mistakes. They worrying about saying the wrong thing. Because of these fears, some learners avoid speaking completely. Unfortunately, avoiding practice slows progress. The best way to improve speaking is to speak. Mistakes will happen. That is normal. Every conversation provides an opportunity to learn. One day, I decided to stop worrying so much about being perfect. Instead, I focused on communication. My goal was not perfect English. My goal was understanding and being understood. This simple change made a big difference. I became more confident. I started speaking more often. As a result, my English improved faster. Another important lesson is that mistakes help us remember information. Think about a time when you made a memorable mistake. You probably remember it very clearly. Our brains often learn strongly from errors. When we make a mistake and receive correction, the lesson becomes more memorable. This is one reason why mistakes can be powerful teachers. School is another place where mistakes help learning. Students solve math problems. They write essays. They answer questions. Not every answer will be correct. Teachers provide feedback to help students improve. Without mistakes, there would be fewer opportunities to learn. Feedback is an important part of growth. Good feedback helps us identify areas for improvement. Sometimes feedback can be difficult to hear. Nobody enjoys being told they are wrong. However, constructive feedback is valuable. It helps us become better. Successful people often seek feedback because they understand its importance. Athletes are a good example. Professional athletes make mistakes during training and competition. They watch recordings of their performances. They analyze errors. They practice specific skills repeatedly. This process helps them improve. The same principle applies to learning languages, playing musical instruments, and developing professional skills. Improvement comes from identifying weaknesses and working on them. Mistakes also teach patience. Learning takes time. Progress is rarely immediate. Many people expect quick results. When success does not come immediately, they become discouraged. However, meaningful growth often happens slowly. Each mistake teaches a small lesson. Over weeks, months, and years, these lessons accumulate. Eventually, significant improvement becomes visible. One mistake that many people make is comparing themselves to others. They see someone speaking fluent English and think, "I will never be that good." This kind of thinking can be discouraging. However, every fluent speaker was once a beginner. Every expert started with limited knowledge. Everyone follows a different path. Instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to your past self. Ask yourself, am I better than I was last month? Have I learned new vocabulary? Can I understand more English now? Small improvements matter. Success is often the result of many small steps. Technology has made learning easier than ever before. Today, learners have access to videos, podcasts, applications, online courses, and educational websites. These tools make it easier to practice and learn from mistakes. For example, language learning applications often provide immediate corrections. Users can see their errors and learn the correct answers. This instant feedback helps accelerate learning. Another important lesson is that mistakes can build resilience. Resilience means the ability to recover from difficulties. Life is full of challenges. Not everything goes according to plan. Sometimes projects fail. Sometimes goals take longer than expected. Sometimes unexpected problems appear. Resilient people do not give up when difficulties occur. Instead, they learn from setbacks and continue moving forward. Thomas Edison is often mentioned when discussing mistakes and persistence. He conducted many experiments before successfully developing the electric light bulb. When asked about his failures, he explained that he had discovered many methods that did not work. This perspective is powerful. Instead of viewing mistakes as failures, he viewed them as learning experiences. This attitude can help us in many areas of life. Mistakes can also improve decision-making. When we reflect on past errors, we gain wisdom. We begin to recognize patterns. We understand what works and what does not work. This knowledge helps us make better choices in the future. Reflection is important. After making a mistake, it is useful to ask questions. What happened? Why did it happen? What can I do differently next time? These questions transform mistakes into valuable lessons. Writing can help with reflection. Some people keep journals. They write about their experiences and lessons learned. This habit encourages self-awareness and personal growth. Even a few sentences each day can be helpful. Another common mistake is fearing criticism too much. People sometimes avoid trying new things because they're worrying about being judged. However, criticism is often unavoidable. No matter what we do, some people may disagree with us. The important thing is focusing on growth rather than approval. When we prioritize learning, criticism becomes less frightening. In language learning, mistakes are especially important. Imagine a student who never speaks because they fear making errors. That student misses valuable practice opportunities. Now imagine another student who speaks regularly despite making mistakes. Which student is likely to improve faster? The second student will probably progress more quickly because they are actively using the language. Practice creates improvement. Mistakes are evidence of practice. Children provide another excellent example. Young children make many language mistakes when learning to speak. They use incorrect grammar. They mispronounce words. yet they continue communicating. Over time, their language skills improve naturally. Adults can learn from this example. Instead of fearing mistakes, we can view them as part of development. Confidence grows through action. The more we practice, the more comfortable we become. Every successful person has a history of mistakes. Writers produce imperfect drafts. Artists create unsuccessful sketches. Musicians play wrong notes. Business owners make poor decisions. Scientists conduct experiments that fail. These experiences are normal. Success is rarely a straight path. It often includes obstacles, setbacks, and lessons learned. One of the most valuable habits is maintaining a positive attitude. A positive attitude does not mean ignoring problems. It means viewing challenges as opportunities for growth. When mistakes happen, positive thinkers ask, "What can I learn from this?" This mindset encourages improvement. Another helpful habit is celebrating progress. Many people focus only on mistakes and ignore achievements. However, recognizing progress is important. Maybe you learned 10 new English words this week. Maybe you understood a podcast more easily. Maybe you had a short conversation in English. These accomplishments deserve recognition. Learning is a journey. Every step forward matters. Supportive friends and teachers can also make a difference. Encouragement helps people stay motivated. When someone believes in us, we often believe in ourselves more strongly. Likewise, we can support others in their learning journeys. Kind words and constructive advice can have a positive impact.